traffickers and pimps ensure that there is a steady supply of victims. More and more experts are beginning to now focus on the demand aspect of this relationship. They are asking the questions, how can we reduce demand? Research has consistently revealed that the drivers of demand are porn and illicit massage parlors. And so local law enforcement agencies are becoming more and more proactive in addressing this, and many law enforcement agencies are working on doing demand reduction sting operations. These are great because they help to ensure the criminalization of traffickers and pimps. They also help to liberate victims and help them transition towards being survivors. However, as you keep studying the problem of human trafficking, you quickly realize that this is not only a local issue. Very little can be done when we only solve the societal issues in our backyard, because this is a global problem. When we focus only on our own county, and I'm just going to use the word Larimer County because that's in Fort Collins, when law enforcement is very active with demand reduction sting operations in Larimer County, perhaps they're going to be very successful in reducing the demand or killing the demand in that county. But that also may result in the transfer of demand to neighboring counties, and then in the transfer of this demand to neighboring states and to neighboring countries. And then this demand goes as far as the Philippines, Cambodia, and India. This is a global issue, and we can fight it only from a global perspective. There is no way we can eradicate human trafficking if we only focused on the local. The internet has also made this issue extremely complex. It has become way more difficult to solve this issue just because of the internet. Websites such as Backpage.com, which is now non-existent, have been used to sell girls. And I did speak to the mother of a child who talked about how her child, her 15-year-old daughter, was sold as a weekend special on Backpage.com. This young girl was sold several times to hundreds of customers, around 15 times a day. In India, Facebook has been used as a tool for advertisement of women and girls that are trafficked. And it is so easy to share videos online with just the click of a button. So it's very important that we all realize that we can be part of the solution, and we take personal responsibility for fighting this issue globally. Here again is a picture showing the annual profits of global forced labor. And let's just take a look at this blue region. That shows the highest amount of profit that is generated in human trafficking, and that's the region of the Asia Pacific. And if you look at the number of slaves there are around 11 million slaves in that region. When you look at the second highest profits, you'll see that it's generated in this yellow region, and this is the developed European Union. And what you'll see here is that there's fewer slaves, but the profit created from one slave is very high. It's around 34K. And so traffickers know this. What they do is they move their victim to different places in such a way that they can generate the highest profit out of them. And here again is a graph that shows you the number of slaves in each region and the profits generated, and that highest degree of profit is in the European Union. But traffickers are also very careful. They want to move their victims to places where there's least regulation and where there's most corruption. And that is why you see that in countries such as Cambodia and the Philippines and in India, there is huge amounts of human trafficking. As I told you, this is a global business. This is a global issue, and there is global demand. Seen here in this picture is a Western tourist vacationing with a minor in the Asian region. I read with horror the news article about a man who was 51 years old, but who lived in the Philippines. He was from Colorado. Police arrested him because they uncovered pornographic images and videos of him engaging in sexual acts with Filipina minors. This broke my heart. In fact, this news article was shared with me by a student of mine who was working for that anti-trafficking organization that helped identify this man. And when I read about it, my heart broke. I felt a personal sense of burden and responsibility because it's people that live right here that are going there to create demand. Seen here in this picture is a 61-year-old Australian man who was caught by police again in the Philippines because he abused 14 girls, 12 of whom were minors, and he was posting the abuse online. Many of these men buy sex from minors by giving them food and candy. It is heartbreaking. I also learned about the patterns of global consumption. The consumer that goes to buy sex is looking to move to places where they are not going to be caught by law enforcement, and also where they can get maximum value for the money that they spend. And that's why you're going to see that most of the movement is from the developed countries to the developing and the underdeveloped countries. These are the dynamics that have contributed to India becoming a major hub for human trafficking. India is a place where there's demand for human trafficking. There is a transit of women and children being transported through the country, and it is also a place where there is a constant supply of women and girls. This is a place where women are being sourced out for human trafficking. In fact, I read a report that showed that around 10 to 26% of trafficked girls are sourced from Andhra Pradesh, the place that New Horizons House is located. That is why organizations such as New Horizons House are so important, and people like us, we need to pay attention to the great work that they do. I'm so grateful that there are organizations out there that care deeply about the healing and the restoration of these women and girls. I'm so glad that even when their own families sell them, there are organizations that are willing to provide them a place of shelter, love, hope, and healing. Thank you, New Horizons House, for what you do. And thanks to all of you for your tremendous support of New Horizons House and for the great work that you do. We can do this together. We must always take sides, and we must take the side of the oppressed. We must take the side of justice, and only then can we create a new world, and we can change the world. Thank you.
Wow, what a fantastic presentation that was. I hope you all found it educational, found it inspiring. I know I did, and I've even seen it multiple times. So thank you so much to Lumina. We are so lucky to have you as a partner and a friend of New Horizons House. And by the way, just so you guys know, Lumina will be a part of the Q&A discussion panel that'll be happening here at the end of the program. So if you have specific questions for her, definitely save those and you'll get those answered shortly. But right now we're going to move on, and we're going to be hearing from a couple of the girls who have lived at New Horizons House and hear their stories about the impact that New Horizons has had on their life. The stories are really powerful, really moving, and I'm really excited to share them with you now.
After we got the license for our facility, we were all eagerly waiting and praying. And when the Child Welfare Committee called me saying that there is a girl and they are going to send her to New Horizons Home, we all praised God. When I first saw Mercy's, there was deadness in her eyes. After an initial setting time, I saw her change and learn with passion. When she first told me she wanted to become a police officer, I thought, what a marvelous testimony. Such a wonderful journey. I will forever be proud of Mercy's, and she will be always in my prayers.
మెస్సీస్ అంటే నాకు తెలుసు. మెస్సీస్ అంటే నాకు చాలా ఇష్టం. మెస్సీస్ అంటే చాలా నేను మెస్సీ అంటే కోసం ప్రే చేస్తాను. మెస్సీస్ అంటే మిస్ అవుతున్నాను. చాలా మిస్ అవుతున్నాను.
Hello everyone. If you're wondering who I am, my name is Mercis. My family is from a place called Eluru. I studied till 10th and then discontinued. What was I going to do after studying? I thought. My dad will marry me off to a guy with some land anyway, and for that, he needs to save money for the dowry. So, I stayed back home doing nothing. I was like this for almost a year. Then I met this guy in my neighborhood. He told me about how he earns money by photographing these big Indian weddings. I thought I could help my dad with the money. I asked him for a job. Soon we had to travel to different places for work. One day, when we were working in another city, it was late in the night when we finished. I insisted that we go back, but they did not listen to me. And before I realized, one of them started touching me inappropriately. All the others joined in and started restraining me as I fought back. It was hopeless. I was outnumbered. Started begging for mercy, but it fell on deaf ears as they held me down and gave me some kind of a drug. The rest of the night was hazy. I remember flashes of me being violated. The next day, I knew something irrevocably evil had happened to me, and all my dreams no longer existed. How was I to face my father now? And just like that, my life had completely changed. I did not go home. I stayed with my captors. They gave me drugs and violated me every time they had a chance. This went on for a while. I don't even know how long this went on for. They told me that I should start assisting them by robbing houses, or they would sell me off to some trafficker. I was scared. I did as they told me to. But it was not enough. They went ahead and sold me to some man in a railway station. I was 15 when I was sold.
It is estimated that over 2 million women and children are trafficked. Due to the extreme poverty, they get sold for as less as 10,000 rupees.
I was lucky in a way that the brothel was raided soon after. I was rescued by the anti-trafficking unit, who then sent me to New Horizons. As I look back on my first week at New Horizons, I remember being confused, angry. The staff there helped me deal with my demons and made me grow in ways I never thought I was capable of. They also gave me someone to look up to. You all know Mother Teresa, right? She worked in the slums of Calcutta, leaving the luxuries of Europe. I don't know why, but you all remind me of her. I also want to be like her and like you. So, I have decided that I will serve the people around me, that I will rescue girls like me. So, I have decided that I will become a police officer.
నా పేరు సునీత, నా వయసు 19. నేను 10th క్లాస్ చదువుకున్నాను. నేను కామెడీ నాగలక్ష్మి అనే అమ్మాయి దానిలో ఈ ఫీల్డ్లో నన్ను దింపేసి ర్యాగింగ్ చేసి నన్ను హైదరాబాదు, నల్గొండ, వైజాగ్ అన్నీ తిప్పేసింది. నువ్వు ఎక్కడికి వెళ్తున్నావు ఏంటి అని అడిగేసి కొట్టేసేసేది. రూమ్లో తీసుకెళ్ళి వెళ్తావా వెళ్ళవా అనేసి బ్లాక్మెయిల్ చేసేది. నన్ను కొట్టి జుట్టు పుచ్చుకుని తీసుకొచ్చి అలా బావాలతో వాళ్ళ మరిదలతో నన్ను తీసుకెళ్ళి బలవంతం చేసి ఫ్లాట్లోకి తీసుకెళ్ళి డ్రగ్స్ ఇవ్వడం, బీర్లు అలవాటు చేయడం, బేజర్లు అలవాటు చేయడం, మొత్తం సిగరెట్స్ స్మోకింగ్ అంతా అలవాటు చేసేది. చేతులు కోసేసేది. ఆ మైకల్లో నేను చేతులు కోసుకుంటాను, ఏం చేసుకుంటాను నాకే తెలిసేది. గోడకేసి గుద్దుకునేదాన్ని. ఆ భయంలో నేను నానారకం చేసేదాన్ని. ఆయన 4 గోడల మధ్య ఉన్నట్లు ఉండేదాన్ని. తీసుకెళ్ళినాక పిల్లలతో ఎలా ఉండాలి, ప్రేమించాలి అందరినీ ఆయన నేర్చుకోబట్టే ఇంత ఇదిగా ఉన్నాను. నేను మగ్గం వర్క్, టైలరింగ్, బేసిక్స్, సింగింగ్, డాన్సెస్ అన్నీ నేర్చుకున్నాను. ఇంకా ఏంటంటే డానీ పఫిన్ బాగా చూసుకునేదాన్ని. ఆ కుక్కలంటే నాకు చాలా ఇష్టం. వార్డెన్స్తో, స్వీటీ మేడంతో పర్సనల్గా వచ్చి మాట్లాడేదాన్ని. నా బాధ్యాలంటే చెప్పుకునేదాన్ని. అన్నీ షేర్ చేసుకునేవాళ్ళు నాతో. నేను వాళ్ళతో షేర్ చేసుకుని చెప్పేదాన్ని. నేను మిషన్ నేర్చుకున్నాను. మామూలు జాకెట్లు అయితే 200, లైనింగ్ జాకెట్లు అయితే 250 అలా తీసుకుంటాను. నెలకు వచ్చి నేను ఇక్కడైతే 20,000 సంపాదిస్తాను. ఈ సంపాదించిందంతా మా అమ్మకి పెడతాను. ఇంకొకటి అమ్మకి బలహీనత, అమ్మకి వీక్నెస్, బాగా నరాల వీక్నెస్, నడుము నొప్పి అవన్నీ బాగా వస్తూ ఉంటాయి. ఈ డబ్బులు సంపాదించిందంతా మా అమ్మని చూసుకోవాలని కోరుకుంటున్నాను. ఈ మగ్గం వర్క్ కూడా నేను ఇంకా 10 మంది నేర్పించి వాళ్ళని షాపులు పెట్టుకునే విధంగా చేస్తాను.
Every time I watch those videos, I just get chills. I cannot even begin to imagine the things that these girls have gone through, and to hear hope still in their voices and see smiles still on their faces despite all that they've overcome, it just amazes me constantly. And so I hope that you were inspired as well. As we're getting closer to the end of things here, I just wanted to take a minute and share with you what our plan for next year looks like. So in addition to continuing to operate New Horizons House at full capacity and bring as many girls through the program as possible, our big vision item for 2021 is to establish a transitional home where girls will be able to go once they graduate New Horizons House and turn 18. So the hope is that this is going to prevent them from regressing back into their old ways or being lured back into a life that they worked so hard to leave behind. And we envision this home as a place with less supervision, where girls are going to have the freedom to come and go, and we'll be encouraging them to put into practice some of the life skills that they learned at New Horizons House. And of course, they'll still have access to resources and support as needed, but it'll just be a little bit looser in terms of the structure. So, and then once they get through that, it'll be getting them back into society, and that could happen through marriage. It could happen through just a return to their community of origin and getting back to their families, or it could be something like a program-sponsored apartment or house where these graduates go together and live in a sort of community where they can support each other. So there's a few different options, but we've already seen the impact that New Horizons House can have on girls like Mercis and Sumatra, and we feel confident that this transitional home would provide the right balance of structure and freedom to help these girls continue to thrive and continue to grow even after they leave New Horizons. So our partners in India are already looking for real estate for that locally. We're hoping to find something really soon, and it's just something that we're really excited about. And so we can't wait to share our progress with you there as it unfolds. So stay tuned. Before we get into the final portion of our program tonight, which will be the panel discussion, I wanted to introduce one of our long-term partners and the pastor of Shiloh Church, Taryn Wise. He's going to be saying a couple of words, so take it away, Taryn.
Hey, good evening, and thank you so much for being a part of the 2020 New Horizons House Gala. My name is Taryn Wise, and I'm a pastor in Fort Collins, Colorado. A couple of years ago, somebody asked me the question. They said, are you more afraid of having everything that you own taken from you, or are you more afraid of wasting your life? For me, as I thought through that question, I'm more afraid of wasting my life. I don't want to get to the end of my life and recognize that my life counted for nobody except myself. And over the last couple of years, I've asked that same question to many people, and many people who own a lot of things, who have a lot of possessions, are often afraid of losing their stuff, rightfully so. But I've noticed that there's a group of people, and it's a large group of people, who are afraid of wasting their life. If you're watching this evening, odds are pretty high that you too are more afraid of wasting your life than you are having your possessions suddenly taken from you. For most of us, we want our lives to matter. We want to do something significant. We want to be a part of something great. And we want our lives to count. When I was in college, I was going to a university in California. And my routine every morning, Monday through Friday, when I would leave my place, was to go to Starbucks, get the same drink, get the same sandwich, and go to school. And on one particular morning, I got to school and there was a man from Compassion International who was sharing at our chapel that day. And he shared about the worldwide need for people to receive sponsorship so that they could eat, so that they could have clothing, so they could go to school, and so that they could have the medical supplies that they needed. For me that morning, I was convicted, deeply, deeply convicted that I could do something better than what I was doing at that moment. So I decided I would give up Starbucks and I would instead sponsor children through Compassion International. That morning, I picked up 9 packets with 9 different names on them, and for the next few years, sponsored 9 different children. Giving up Starbucks, while it was slightly inconvenient, did not add any purpose to my life. It was nothing significant, but for those years that I sponsored those kids, there was a very high level of significance. I knew that I was doing something great. I knew that my life mattered to somebody other than just myself, and I knew that what I was doing was significant. This evening, we want to ask all of you to do something significant as well, not just to feel a level of conviction from the stories that we have heard, from the testimonies that we have heard, but to do something significant with your own life. For most of us watching this evening, we live in a bubble. And we live in a bubble here in the United States where we don't hear about a lot of the atrocities that are happening worldwide. We don't hear of poverty on a very deep level. We don't see a lot of what the rest of the world gets to see. We don't hear about slavery. We don't hear about trafficking. We don't hear about children who are thrown into an industry or sold into an industry whose names are never spoken again. We don't hear about a lot of those things, but the reality is that happens every single day. And it will continue to happen every single day unless somebody disrupts the cycle. And this evening, we want to ask that you be a part of disrupting that cycle. Edmund Burke, who was a famous Irish philosopher, once said the only thing necessary for evil to prevail is for good men to do nothing. And that quote is a quote that many of us have heard, but it's a quote that is absolutely true. The only thing necessary for evil to continue to thrive, to continue to grow, is for good people to sit back and to do nothing. What's necessary for sex trafficking to continue is that good people sit back and do nothing. Tonight we want to change that. Tonight we want to smash a cycle of trafficking. We want to make an imprint on the cycle that so many people are stuck in India through New Horizons. And this evening we want to ask you to join us in that fight. It costs approximately $5,000 for New Horizons to finance a girl for a year. That $5,000 is to provide food, housing, clothing, trauma counseling, medical care, educational opportunities, and vocational opportunities. $5,000 a year, if you were to multiply that by 40, for 40 girls comes to $200,000. The operating cost for New Horizons House is $200,000 a year for 40 girls. If you want to see how that money breaks down to the penny, you can go to newhorizonshouse.org and see that breakdown. Tonight, our goal here with this gala is to raise 75% of that. It's to raise $150,000. The reality is that the more money we can raise this evening, the more girls can be rescued. The more money that we can sacrifice, the more money that we can give to New Horizons House, the more our lives will matter. The other reality is that there is enough money here to completely end trafficking worldwide. There's enough money in our country to end trafficking, to solve world hunger, to provide water for every human on the face of the planet. The money is here, the resources are here. The only thing missing is good people giving. The only thing that is missing is more sacrifice. Knowing that we live in a country that is so insulated from the outside world, having a glimpse into that outside world like we've been given tonight pricks something in many of our hearts. It awakens something within our souls that for so many of us is dead. And this evening we want to ask that you use that conviction to again make a difference, to be a part of something significant. And while it's a great opportunity for those of us who consider ourselves followers of Christ, it's also a command. Proverbs 11:24 through 25 says, "One gives freely, yet grows all the richer. Another withholds what he should give and only suffers want. Whoever brings blessing will be enriched, and one who waters will himself